Right, folks, we'll kick off. Councillor Fox is on his way over, so we'll have the prayer.
Honest correct Hallamage Ganovan the Cornishaw, the Chronic, the Cartnet, Agus the Core, and Fulford the Got in our Gundafin, Agus on Shiakona, on Coentish, Agus on Kirch in our dearer fod, either who Agus has. Donip doing and Yerima Dirty Year, Tre Christ or Derna, and I'm not Agus and Vic, Agus Spirit in each Amen.
Thanks, everyone. I just want to welcome the Councillor Castley, who's joining online, and Alan Flynn from the Weekender and Director of Services, Dorothy Clark. Councillor Fox just running late, so I want to welcome Emer Concannon and congratulate her on her new role as Acting Director of Services. So you're very welcome, Emer. Now, Clore, item 1, to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the municipal meeting Sligo-Drumcliff, 16th of November.
I propose.
Councillor Castley propose. Do we have a second?
I'll second them, but there should be some mention of the item that I tried to second, which was given to somebody who had seconded it before it was called. It was out of place, I thought, and it should have been noted, I believe, in the minutes. But I'll let it go this time.
So minutes are confirmed. So 2 matters arising. Item number 3, to note the recent Town and Village Renewal Scheme Accelerated Measures 2020 round 1, 2 and 3 funding allocations in the Sligo-Drumcliff area. There is a report that was sent out.
With the chair. Just in relation to that, with COVID happening now at the moment, a lot of the funding for these, is there extra time going to be given to people to carry out the works or what, or there's be a lot more pressure on them?
Chair, if it's okay.
Yeah.
I suppose these would have been applied for late last year. So the impact of COVID. And particularly with projects that require construction on site, additional time will have to be added on for that. At this stage, we don't anticipate that there will be much difficulty with that, except that the projects will be pushed back maybe later in the year and drawdowns as well. But we assume that when the construction sector is kind of back, well then obviously we will be in a position to move forward with these projects. But they have been approved. We have the funding secured, and I suppose plans are being drawn up just to kind of make sure that when we're in a position to move on site, that we would be ready to do so.
Yeah, and can I just add to that? I think this is a very good and positive scheme that was introduced this year. It's smaller money in town and village renewal, and it allows smaller villages to access the smaller amounts of funding. And it's a fast turnover in Ballygawley. The project is finished. It's a new walkway, and you know, I suppose there's huge benefit in what we've done for 25,000 or 21 plus VAT, as it really is. So I want to thank Dorothy Clark and Michael Carty for their work. We've done very well across the county in town and village renewal, and hopefully that will continue into the future.
Chair, could I add to that?
Yeah.
While that was funding that was received under the accelerated measures, it was linked to COVID accelerated measures. We've had a further announcement of the town and village, which would be the annual standard town and village grant scheme. And I'm pleased to say that I suppose the Sligo-Drumcliff area has benefited further from this, with Drumcliff, Ballasadair and Ross's Point receiving funding under the standard for the annual town and village programme. Now we will be forwarding details to all members of those grants within the next week or so. So we'll be certainly keeping you informed approvals and funding secured on all of these programmes.
Councillor Casserly.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. Yeah, just to welcome that the funding there, the accelerated measures, and it's great to see that the money is being spent already. And also, Dorothy, that's great news. More funding. Did you say? I just missed the first part. I think you said Drumcliff, Ballasadair, and Ross's Point. So that's definitely to be welcomed. And just, I suppose, even in these tough times when people are trying to work online from home, that the funding applications that they can be applied for and turned around very quickly. So just all credit to yourselves and the team there again for, because it does really make a difference. And in a way, it's great to get a lot of these jobs done in the local areas, because we'll be ready to hit the ground running properly then when the restrictions hopefully are lifted and the economy starts back again, and people I think will probably be visiting and staying a lot more local in Ireland. So it's actually great that we have time now to get this work done when it is quieter time of the year, and I suppose when footfall is quieter as well. So just to welcome that. Thank you.
Now, item number 4, Councillor Casserly.
I'll second that.
Councillor Gilroy, seconded.
Is your report, please?
Coherlock, the Environment Section will liaise with the North Sligo Area Engineer in the coming months to establish whether or not there are public lands available in the Clifton area for provision of a bottle bank facility. If not, private lands would need to be identified and permission would need to be sought from the property owner as to whether or not they would be willing to allow a facility on the said lands. Outside of available land, consideration also needs to be made with regard to planning compliance. A site must be 50 metres from any dwelling and have no overhead wires. Servicing of the site must also comply with health and safety of road users and those servicing the site. Given the current restrictions and circumstances, it will be a number of months before this will be addressed, but it is hoped to progress this matter in 2021.
Thank you, Emer, for that report. Yeah, I had this actually on the agenda last year. I think it was last year. It might have been 18 months ago now at this stage. And Clifton is a very, very busy village, and it's very much needed as well. They're successful in other villages, and I know that with COVID, it's harder to get anything like this done. But if you can keep it on the agenda, I know I'll also be speaking with the area engineer about it again. But it's very much needed in the area as well. So. I welcome that report, and hopefully we can get something in by the end of the year. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair the Chair. Can I just ask a question, if at all possible? First of all, I think that this is badly needed in Clifton and surrounding areas. But Clifton has grown over the last number of years, and we see the amount of houses and development sites in it. And I'm just wondering, when we are looking at an area down there for public space and that we should be looking as well for amenities, like something for the kids in there. There's a site of kids that live down in that area, and there's no place down there for swings or slides or something like that. And I'm sure there is a good community spirit down there in the area, having worked with a number of the residents committees there in the past. And that's the way we should be looking at it. As it says, you have a school there, and it's a very busy road, and try and keep the kids away from the road if there was an area there that they could go to, a sports facility or even a car park or some sort of a central area that they could have a place down there to operate out of. Thank you.
Councillor Gilroy.
Yeah, thank you. Again, the bottle bank is needed, but I suppose to find a space in Clifton that's more than 50 metres from any home is not simple. There was a site that I had visited, and I know the acting senior engineer and the area engineer, I think they were to get back to you, Tom, about that. Councillor Fox and myself had attended a number of meetings, and I know Chairman, yourself and Councillor Healy had also attended with the community, and it was one of the issues that they felt there was something needed. There's an ongoing safety issue on the road, that children are being let out to a primary school, all arriving at the same time, and all the cars have to park along the national primary road, where speed is not being adhered to, unfortunately. And I know we can't stand out and slow down every car, but it is an ongoing danger, and I think maybe it could be looked at there's a possibility certainly there. I have personally spoken to the landowner, and if you want further context there, I'll certainly put you in contact there, because I think we'd be pushing an open door, but just to find the right mechanism to do it, whether it's personally I'd say it'd be envisaged that maybe if the school was involved, we could get CLAR funding maybe next year for it, but we need to be thinking about how to plan that now. They may have to do the purchasing, but we could see once they had the site purchased if there was anything we could do, but we need to do a bit of horse trading first, so thank you.
Yeah, and
just so I could pick up on one issue there that Donald raised, and it's a vital one as well, is the speed going through the village. There is no sign on any of the roads coming in or out stating that there's a school ahead on the main road there. And also, if you look at the village itself, you have the post office on one end, you have the school then in the middle, and then you have the health centre. So there's a site of cares. I met with the engineer down there a couple of months back in relation to it, and I asked him to highlight it with TII regarding the speed coming in through the village and that. And as Donald rightly says, the local Garda have been involved, and I spoke with the principal in the school there as well. So I think we do need to have a look at that. I did ask the local engineer to write to TII to find out what response he got. I haven't received any response back from that yet. So Tom, you might just check up with that on us for us, please, if you could. Thank you.
yeah, and if I can just add, in Carrow Road, the Bringbank facility was opened early in December. It's very successful at a cost of about 7,000. We got a private site for it, Apple Green in Carrow Row. And my understanding with Cliffany is that there was money ring-fenced in last year's budget for, there was 2 Bringbank facilities there was money ring-fenced for. My understanding was one was Carrow Row and one was Cliffany, so we might also check on that. Councillor Cassidy, I think, wants to come in.
Yeah, just very briefly again. Yeah, that was because I actually had a motion down before for the Bring Centre at Carrow Row as well as Cliffany. So you're right there on that. And just in relation to play facilities, I think Dorothy has had a number of emails from myself just asking for, you know, if there's any land. It's very difficult to find any council land there. Dorothy had said before that there's nothing that's suitable there, so it's not for the want of asking for facilities. And I've been contacted by the school as well to try and help out, and I'd say over the last 5 years I've been asking at least for to see if there's any land there that could be used for as a community facility for a park or for a playground. So it has been on the agenda for a long time. So and I know, Dorothy, that you have written back to me recently as well, saying that that there's nothing available as of yet. Anyway, thanks.
That's true.
Item number 5, Councillor Casserly. Councillor Fox, seconded.
Is there a report, please?
This location can be examined as staff resources allow, in conjunction with TII, to determine any particular traffic problems and possible solutions to same.
Thank you for that. And this has been an issue actually even before the works have started. Just that it's a very, you're aware of it, it's a very busy intersection there coming on to the N15. Before there was any mention of the primary care centre, it has been raised that it's very difficult, particularly in the mornings, for cars to get out onto the main road. So I think anything at all, the fact that it'll be examined, that's to be welcomed. And with the new primary care centre there now, it's going to make it even busier as well. So I suppose it's a safety aspect as well to it. So yeah, I'd welcome anything, any kind of communication that can start on trying and looking at that very busy junction. Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, just to formally support Councillor Castley's motion, and I'd just like to ask, were there any special conditions in the planning with the primary care centre in relation to that junction? Was there any indication that, you know, it is, you right on that junction, and just to see if there's a clarification on that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Councillor Fox, but I'll check it out and I'll get back to you on it.
Councillor Gilroy?
Yeah, I had raised this as well over a year ago before the work started at all, when it was at tender stage. I don't think there is anything in the planning, and I don't really think you can control something because the junction is still quite a bit away from the entrance to the site. But it is a spot there's a lot of accidents within 100 metres of it, especially on the Yates Tavern side and the health centre side. There are a lot of rear ends, for want of a better term. And there's a pothole right outside Davis's that is there for the last year at least and hasn't been taken care of. You might deal with that as well if you could.
Councillor Healy?
Yeah, just in relation to that, I suppose we won't know until the primary care centre is built how much traffic is going to be coming in and out of it, and maybe at that stage then we'd have a better idea of what we need to be monitoring at it. So I propose that maybe we look at it further down the line again. Thank you.
Now item number 6. Councillor Castley, who seconded that now? Sorry. Chewy. Do you want to, two of you were together, so who? Councillor Fox? Councillor Castley?
Is there a report, please?
Yeah, Coherlock, these two roads are not included in the current 2019-2021 multi-annual restoration improvement programme. However, if additional funds become available, these roads will be included for consideration.
Thank you. You're going to get very used to answering that type or giving that type of answer if funds become available, Emer. So we'll keep asking for the funds to become available. Just in relation to the announcement of the funding for Sligo Walks, which is very, very welcome this morning. I think that the Gartharawi Walk and of course Hazelwood are probably two of the most popular and the most scenic walks in Sligo. And they will be a lot busier now with the funding with the improvements there. I know that the road at Benvolbin has been resurfaced up to the junction, but and that's welcome, but it's just further up it actually needs to be done. And then the Half Moon Bay, I did put councillors' proposals onto that, and thank you to the roads crew who did resurface or who did fill the potholes, but because it's a very busy road and the surface isn't that great, the potholes, like everything else, appear overnight again. So I suppose that if there is any for the next programmes, if they can be added, it would be really appreciated because they're very, very busy roads. Thanks.
Councillor Fox?
Thank you, Councillor Haley, for allowing me to speak. Just to formally support Councillor Castley's motion again in relation to the Benvolbin, the walk at Gortnagrawi and out there in Half Moon Bay and Hazelwood. These are two very important recreational sites. A lot of people use them more and more in recent times with the pandemic. And I'm delighted to see that money has been allocated this morning as well from Minister Humphreys. These are they're being used more and more, and they need to be maintained to a higher standard. I suppose we need additional funding for additional services. I suppose with the changing demands on our public services, we need just additional funding to provide these services. And thank you for your support. Thank you,
Councillor Healy.
Yeah, welcome the report. I know that the funding is low, but I suppose it's like all the other roads we have around the country, the first and second class roads probably fall in on this category as well. But may I ask that until funding comes available, that there is pothole repairs carried out on a regular basis in that area until we have it done, because we have all, as councillors, received calls from people in relation to the potholes in the area and the concerns around it, and some of them got to be too big at a number of times where you have people avoiding them. So if maybe if we could do that until funding comes available, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Gilroy.
Again, thanks for that. I suppose the words are the same, just a slightly different accent from what we were used to getting here for the last year. It's more than potholes on that road. especially the one at Gartharawi, it needs to be widened. The landowner there has spoken to me. There's quite a difficulty with access, and I had raised it about another issue at last month at the meeting earlier this month about the same problem that's now starting to occur over at Rockley. Quilcha have a plan or a suggestion of a space for, and I've been talking to Brian McGarrahy there, and I know Michael Carty has been in constant talks with him. But I think these roads in our area, especially the roads to amenity places, need to have a ring fence section of our annual budget, of our annual roads budget. And I know that's not easy, but I suppose if it was taken that became a rule, it would take away the pressure that would come on each of the 5 of us to provide it to roads where there's maybe more houses. But the amount of traffic that's going to get. I had reason to visit a Garda station yesterday about bad parking at a separate amenity place, just crazy parking that a member of the public brought to me. And they said that basically this year they were looking at staycations again. It's going to be the same as last year, but probably with even greater numbers, because they hope that with the vaccine it'll be relaxed a little bit, that people will feel a little bit freer going around the country. And that there's going to be a huge influx of numbers, and they're going to go to all these places. They're going to go to Half Moon Bay, they're going to go to Gartharawi, and they're going to end up parked in front of people's gates and obstructing people's entrances and blocking each other out and in. And we're still blocking the mountain rescue or someone like that from getting in the case of an emergency. So that one up at Gartharawi, it needs to be widened. The landowner says he's willing to talk on it and to make, and like, you know, you don't know how popular Gartharawi could get. Very popular with friends. Jimmy there might know some friends that might turn up there, and you never know, we could have a Joey up there or someone like that, or have them all visiting us. So we'll see how that goes.
Right. Item number 7. Councillor, yeah, I'll second that.
Goherlock, this location will be considered for future funding applications under low-cost safety schemes and also under active travel grants, subject to meeting the criteria of those funding streams.
Councillor Healy.
Thanks for your report. Now, this is on the agenda for a long while. I'm aware that the council are looking to access some of the land that was there. Where are we with that at the present?
I haven't got the answer for you, but I will check it out and get back to you on it. I know before Christmas, the area engineer and senior executive engineer met residents in the area, so they are, you know, engaging with what needs to be, what the issues are out there.
There was a bit of land that needed to be purchased to extend the footpath out, because if we can't get this bit of ground to extend the footpath out, we're going nowhere. The council own a bit of ground out there as well, and there's a bit of legal dumping going out, legal dumping happening as well out there on the ground that's owned by Sligo County Council. There's an old type shed out there. There's an area there where people are going in now dumping stuff. It happened over the last week or two. And as I says, we want to kind of hit that in the bud. We don't want that starting up again. But as I says, the residents out there, especially the time of the bad frost, people are walking on the road. That road is one of the roads that's not included in the Salton. It's the old Galway road. I've asked on a number of occasions for them included because of the amount of houses and the amount of people that lives on that road, and because of the situation we have at present, where people have no footpaths to walk on and are walking out in the middle of the road. I think we need to up our game here now. I think this has gone on over 2.5 years now. I think we need to talk to the person that has the land, and I think there's a planning issue there. So I think that we need to start upping our game. As I says, we did ask that it be that funding would be applied for under the low cost action scheme for this year. I hope that that's gone in. There's a need for a pedestrian crossing there. There's a number of issues that need to be addressed there. And there was funding also given there to put up signs by myself and Seamus Kilgallen in the last council, speed signs coming into the road because of the speed that's coming in off the Galway road onto that road. So if you could take that all on board, I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I suppose I've been contacted again, like I suppose many members here about this. As Councillor Healy has pointed out, it's very populated. There's a lot of estates, particularly at school time when people are walking with children to and from the school. I think this should be looked at as soon as is possible. My understanding, I'm not sure if it's included in this year's low cost safety scheme, but that I think that's to be announced in the funding for that is to be announced in the next few weeks. So I hope it is, and if not, if it can be included in the current scheme that's due to close, I think this week, the active scheme. Thank you.
To note, because I know I did raise it before, but and it's probably with the local engineers as well. If we are putting in footpaths, there's badly need for lighting out that road. The lighting out that road is unbelievably bad. Even if it was a case that we just could change some of the lighting that's there originally and put up some of the LEDs, I know that that's in the process now at the moment, but the lighting out that road is, in parts of it, is very bad. Thank you.
Now, item number 8.
Second that.
Seconded, Councillor Gilroy.
Coherlock, a contract has been awarded for these works, and it is envisaged these works will be completed by the end of Q2 2021. That is subject to the current COVID-19 restrictions.
First of all, I want to welcome the funding, and I want to thank Tom Brennan for the work that he has done in relation to getting that funding. I had a many discussion with him about that funding. I suppose the first phase of it that we got, where we got land there and worked with the landowners to get the footpath put under the bridge, we see the benefits of that. We see now that we have kids that, when the schools open, are using it to go to the Ballysadare school. It has attracted great camaraderie between the two villages, because that's what we all wanted. The footpaths were always there. We only looked for them to be reinstated. And as I suppose the most important thing is to try and finish them off down into Ballysadare. But I would also like to highlight the fact that from the Teela Monument down to the first phase needs to be looked at as well. There is funding got under Colony Redevelopment, got a bit of funding there to do works. And we have been working very close with the National Grave Authority in relation to getting something done with Teela Monument. And as you're probably aware, as you drive along that road, there's a couple of ballards there along the main. We have funding got to take away them and do up that. But I talked to Conor McCann, the local engineer, on it. But I think that there's no point in having that done up and nicely done, and then you have nothing in between, and then you're onto a good footpath. So I mean, just a bit of, if we're able to work on that and come together on some sort of agreement and how we can work it and work it best for everyone, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Gilroy.
Again, that's great to hear that the contract has been awarded, and it would be great to see it finished out to the end. And again, the Teeling Monument is probably something there. I think it's the 100th anniversary of when the Black and Tans took the hand off him. Is coming up shortly, and it'd be lovely to maybe mark that in some way. And if the hand could be found, it'd be even better.
Oh, the hand is found.
I know the hand has been found, believe it or not. It was picked up by an old woman the day it was shot off, and we have the hand. So as I says, we've been working with the National Grave Authority on it. So the hand has been found. So the Black and Tans didn't get their way that day either.
Councillor Castley.
Yeah, just to welcome the funding. It's a very busy road there with walkers going from Colony to Ballysadare and vice versa, and also with the greenway and the walkway there that's very, very popular in Ballysadare. So it ties it up nicely, and also runners will actually be delighted because a number of them have been asking about the surface, that it is the footpath. The improvements are welcome, but then the surface isn't as good, and they have been asking. So all the runners and walkers in the area would be particularly delighted with that news of the funding as well. Thank you.
And if I can just add that I support the motion, and it's welcome that the contract has been awarded. This has gone on for quite some time, and there's been quite a bit of funding has went into this, from the low cost accident scheme to the footpath improvement scheme, and last year's 200,000, which was awarded from the Minister and the Department. I think it's very welcome, and it's important that we progress this as fast and as soon as is possible, because it's a very dangerous road and there's a huge volume of traffic and cyclists that use this on a daily basis. So I support the motion. Item number 9, Councillor Healy.
Second that, please.
Councillor Gilroy, seconded.
Caoirleach, there's a response here from Irish Water on that motion. So Irish Water thanks the Municipal District for the inquiry. So Irish Water has published the first phase, the draft framework plan of the National Water Resources Plan for public consultation. So this National Water Resources Plan is Ireland's first 25-year strategic plan, enabling us to move towards safe, secure, reliable and sustainable water supplies for all of our customers and communities, while safeguarding public health and the environment. As part of this process, and with regard to Sligo, and in particular the North Sligo public water supply, Irish Water have consulted with members of the Sligo Water Services team and members of Sligo planning team over the last 2 years. A number of possible options are now being considered, and a preferred long-term solution for the North Sligo scheme will be confirmed later this year. The first stage plan that was published in December 2020 is available to view in the Sligo planning offices. For the first time, the National Water Resources Plan will provide a countrywide analysis to identify the water we have, the water we use, the water we need, and any potential risk to water quality. It sets out the methods and options to meet these shortfalls in a resilient and environmentally sustainable way, and is accompanied by a strategic environmental assessment, environmental report and Natura impact statement, which looks at how our plan considers its impact on the environment. The National Water Resources Plan will calculate the demand for water from homes, businesses and industry now and into the future. It will assess the amount of water available in existing supplies. It will assess the impact of weather events such as drought on our water supplies, and it will identify areas where there is not enough water supply to meet demand or where there is a risk to water quality. And Irish Water thank the Council for contacting them on this.
Well, I want to thank Irish Water for the response. I suppose, first of all, it's welcome that they are now looking into it, and they are taking it serious now of what North Sligo has to supply themselves off 2 streams coming down the side of a mountain. That's welcomed. I suppose what we need here as councillors over the next number of years, until our time is up anyways, is that there's more contact between ourselves and Irish Water. A report exactly where we are, where we're going, and whatever processes they hope to do over the next number of years. It's important us here as councillors are also informed of what they intend to do in the long term. So I'd like that to be noted, and also whatever updates is needed that will be brought back to us here as councillors on it. As another issue, I received an email, I suppose all our councillors received as well, from a person in Rathcormac regarding water supplies there in Rathcormac too. They're on a scheme themselves, so I'm hoping that when the North Sligo has been looked at, they'll be looking at all these other type of schemes and try and tie them all in together. That's the thing about when you live in rural Ireland. I mean, if you haven't, where I live myself, I have my own well, but I also connected onto a scheme that we set up at one time, and now we're connected to Sligo County Council, or Irish Water now is over it. But that's the most important thing, is that people know the supply that they're getting, and they know that it's safe to drink, or they know that it's safe to use. And that's the importance of having it under a local authority, I think, in the first place. But as I said, I welcome it. It's something that the people in North Sligo have highlighted now for a long number of years. I suppose only for the great work of the caretaker down there, and he has done tremendous work down there that kept the water supply going when the weather was good. And but we shouldn't be looking into that. That we have to depend on our weather, or we have to depend if there's a drought coming up. We should be. The supply should be there, and we should be looking at it for long term. And as it says, the long term of any town or village is exactly where's their water, where's the storage, and they're 2 things that the local authorities should be. Make sure that we have them done We've tried and have done great work over the years. I see the Clooney plant treatment plant is soon up and running. We've seen the one in Grange. We've seen in Strandhill. Sligo County Council has done great work on this end of it, but this is one issue that has been raised now a number of times with myself, and I know the other councillors here are getting the same response back from other ones. So as I says, I appreciate that, but I think now moving on, that it's important that us as councillors are kept in the loop of what's happening, where it is, and everything else. And thank you.
Councillor Gilroy.
Thank you, Chair. Look, yes, I'd like to support the motion. It is something that is going to cause a problem, but it's great to hear that they are planning for a 25-year plan. That's very, very important, and it should be noted. The alternative supply, apart from the two streams that Councillor Healy mentioned, the alternative supply, I believe there's a problem with the levels of magnesium in it, so therefore only 20% of the total water flow into the plant can be from that source. So when there's very dry weather, I suppose to see that Irish Water spoke with our own water services and planning department, we also need them to speak to the people on the ground, because you know, when those streams were running dry last year, the first calls I got from it were from sheep farmers and people cutting turf on the mountain, who were passing and saying the inlet has gone low, you need to go up and see it, you need to promote it on social media and things like that, so that people, then when it did start to rain, not only did it bring the river, but it brought half the road with it as well, which cost another fortune. But it's just far from ideal, and I think the future development of the villages in North Sligo, and I suppose that what the planning department see as the future growth plans for each of the villages that's covered by that water supply scheme is going to be critical. It's going to be a huge part of that plan, that there is water to supply them. And as Councillor Healy said, we were all contacted this morning by that man, and it appears that the problem, himself and a neighbour had a private supply. The neighbouring house, the well was on the neighbour's property, and the neighbouring house has now been sold, and the relationship may not just be as good. So the group water scheme have a problem with access to certain lands, and I've got that from quite a few people that they're having a problem there. So it's going to become a bigger issue that kind of needs to be sorted, and I don't know whether Irish Water have kind of said, well, they only deal with the former council schemes. They don't deal with group schemes and problems that they have for capacity in the area they're covering. So I just don't know if there's anything we could do. Also, where the Drumcliff group water scheme comes from, if you click on the air code of the actual pumping station, it's listed as Sligo County Council. Now, I don't know whose land it actually is on. I thought it was actually part of the old Scanlon holding that was sold many years back, but I think that needs to be looked at there. There is going to be an ongoing issue there in that group water scheme area.
Councillor Casserly.
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome the report, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, item number 10. It's my own. Second by Councillor Healy, who's just in before Marie. I didn't hear you. So this is it's a very simple issue here. You know, there has been 2 new ramps gone in each side of the village, both the Ballygawley side and the Drumahare side, under the low-cost accident scheme, and they're working very, very well. Certainly, the speed in the village has hugely reduced over the last few months since they have gone in. I understand there's a third one to go in on the Sligo side, outside the community enterprise units, which are almost at capacity. So it's very welcome. I understand that's to take place in Q1 of this year, and that area of road is to be resurfaced. But if we can just, signage is an issue. I suppose the ramps coming in, particularly from the Drumahare side, the ramp, it is quite high, and if you didn't know the area, you get a fear hop when you come over it because of the lack of lighting. Yeah, they certainly will know it the next time. But I suppose it is an issue. I've been contacted quite a bit over Christmas about it. So if we can get warning signs or just an advance warning sign for the ramp coming in from each side. There's only the two. It's coming in from the Ballygawley side and the Drumahare side. And I'd also ask that we look at lighting, expanding the lighting out the Advaled side particularly. And footpaths are an issue out there also. So I'll look forward to the report.
Coirlock, the provision of traffic calming in Ballintor village was carried out under the umbrella of low-cost accident scheme in 2020. Appropriate warning signage to inform motorists of the provision of speed ramps have been provided on both approaches to Ballintor village, and additionally the appropriate road markings in the form of shark's teeth have been provided.
Yeah, Councillor Haley.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank the council. I suppose with the public consultation with the residents in the estate or in the village that brought about the ramps in the first place. And as it says, you have no complaints from the residents that live in the village in relation to the ramps coming in. And anyone that is complaining about the speed coming in, they're going too fast in the first place. I was behind a lorry coming into Drumahare, or from Drumahare Road into Ballygawley or Ballintor one evening, and I says to myself, this man is going too fast. He'd cattle in the lorry. Well, when he hit the ramp, anyways, he had to pull in further up the road to steady himself as well as everything else. So, I mean, they are doing the job that they're meant to be doing. Councillor Walsh is right. Maybe there is two signs up saying ramps ahead, all right. Maybe they would need to be brought out further. But there's another issue there I'd like to bring to your attention, and it's the need for footpaths. After you pass them ramps, there's a number of houses there that there's no footpaths. And we've raised it here in this chamber a couple of times. We've looked for funding on the floor and everything else, but unfortunately we're coming up. We're not getting in there at any time. I'd ask that you'd look at this serious now. This would enhance the village. It would finish the village. It'd make the necessary safety measures to the village. Because before the ramps went in, what the main problem was cars were passing each other out. So once you pass the community centre, cars were passing each other out, going out that road. So the ramps have helped that on that occasion as well. But I'd ask that you look at putting in footpaths there. It has been with the local engineer. He's well aware of where they're needed. And if there's funding that, like you said, coming up, that'd be appreciated. And as I says, the people of Ballintor have looked hard for all this work to be done, and it's appreciated the work that the council have done. And I especially want to thank John O'Flaherty for all his great work down through the years in getting it done, and the commitment that he gives to the people in the village that it would be done in 3 phases. We're on the 2nd phase. The 3rd phase now is the phase going out towards the GEA pitch, where we're looking for an island to be put in there to slow up the traffic coming into the village. And as Councillor Walsh says, on the Carrow Road side of it, where they're putting in pedestrian cross or ramp there, I'd ask that ramp might be looked at as well, to put in that ramp be a pedestrian crossing as well. We've a lot of children there in the creche down there that will be using, and we could get 2 advantages out of it. That it could be used for a ramp as well as a pedestrian crossing. That was the problem years ago with the one up at the school, is that it was only a ramp put in and it didn't serve the purpose. Now what we have a ramp and a pedestrian crossing at the school, which is most welcome. So I appreciate the great work that you're doing. I know it's hard, and it's hard to get around to every town and village, but as I says, Ballintor has benefited from the safety measures brought into the town. The people are delighted with it. As it says, if we would look at that footpath, and I think that we'll come to a stage where Ballintor safety issues will be soon addressed once and for all. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the report, Emer, and I welcome the shark's teeth are on, but I suppose the issue really is that the ramps aren't seen. There's no, where you have ramps in any other area, there is public lighting around them, but there is no public lighting, particularly on the Drumahare side, because the lighting hasn't been extended out to Advaled. That is the main issue, the footpath and the lack of lighting. So hopefully we can address that under some of the schemes. In 2021, I have spoken to the area engineer on it, and hopefully we can find an avenue to for funding in 2021. Thank you. Right. Councillor Dewar.
Yeah, sorry, now I know you were finishing off there, but just again, when we're on that subject and you said how the low cost accident funding was available, is that available at all on the national roads? I suppose that'd be the first thing. And the second thing is, I suppose it's our first kind of real roads issue. So to congratulate everyone involved in the Western Distributor Road, you did great work. I had one complaint about it, and guess what the complaint was? That the ramps were too high. And I said, well, were you doing less than 60 kilometres an hour? To which I was greeted with silence. So it's obviously what the issue is, and I think Councillor Healy hit it on the nail there, that they weren't, that, you know, if they come in too fast to them, but perhaps Councillor Walsh has the right idea to put more signage on it. I know sometimes too much signage gets lost, but if they're not in exactly the right place that they're catching people's attention, maybe they need to be adjusted slightly, put out a little bit or a bit closer. I'm not going to comment on the particular one, but people, you know, 99% of it, people, you know, and Emer, I suppose, kind of a pre-warning for every meeting of this municipal district, 3 or 4 of the motions are going to be about speed through villages. It's constant for every one of us is getting it. If we're not getting it about Ballantor, we're getting it about Ross's Point, we're getting it about Cliffany, we're getting it about Carney, Grange, Rathcormac, every village in the county, in our region, same in Ballysadare, Calooney, they're all the same, and speed is. And I think we need to kind of build a plan on it, not just look at them as pieces, but look at an overall plan of attacking the whole thing before anything serious happens, which none of us wants to see. So thank you.
You want to come back in?
Yeah, just sorry, Emer, just a quick one for you. Might solve the problem with your signage. Is that there is a speed signs that was put up in Ballantor. One was coming in from the Ballygawley side, and the other one was put down beside the crossroads there. That one is far too close to. At the time, we raised our concerns about it, because as you were coming in from by the community centre, you're nearly past the community centre before the light shone to say the speed you were doing. If it was a case that was moved out past the ramp, people would know then the speed that they were doing before they hit the ramp. And if they were doing over the speed, then tough luck. Because where it is at the moment, it's serving no purpose. Thank you.
Now, item number 11.
I'll second that.
It's my own motion, and I suppose the director will probably kill me from this motion down again, because I think it's my third one, in relation to this over the last year, and I'm delighted that this funding was included and passed by the members in this year's budget. It's important that this role is filled. The funding has been included in the estimates, in line with also the new Stephen Street Plaza and our commitments to Falch Ireland on that stage area. So I'd be hoping that we can get this post advertised as soon as is possible. I know when I spoke to the director last, you were finalising the job specification for the role. And the second part of this motion is just in relation to the County Sligo tourism strategy, where we had talked about expanding events by 3 to 4 in terms of larger events in the county going forward up to 2023, and that recommendation to have a festival and events strategy. So we have a calendar and a series of events planned across the county, and that there's integration between them, but I suppose they're unique in their own right. And I suppose particularly now at a time where we're particularly the community and voluntary sector that run many events across the county, and I know I've raised this with Sligo PPN, it's going to be very tough to get these events back up and running, and hopefully that will happen in Q3 of 2021. But a lot of these committees are going to need a lot of support to get their events back up and running again, because they've lost time, they've lost the time to fundraise, they haven't had meetings. So it's important that these committees and the private sector are supported in getting events back into this county. And if we're not ahead, we're behind. So I would ask that this role be advertised as soon as is possible. So I look forward to the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Now, the job spec for the new post of Festival and Events Programming Manager is currently being drawn up and will be forwarded to the Department for sanction before the end of this month. Now, once sanction is received, we will then be in a position to advertise it, of course, and to progress it, or to progress with the recruitment process. That will be done by our own HR department, and they have a very busy recruitment schedule. However, if there are no significant delays, I mean, okay, we have to wait for sanction to come from the department, but if there are no significant delays, it does take a number of months between getting sanction, advertising, holding interviews, and then the person taking up duty. Well, look, we would be hopeful that the position could be filled before the end of Q2 2021. Maybe before that, but hopefully before, in or around that it won't go beyond that, but we just have to wait and see. So that's where we are with the job spec and the position. And we are delighted to have provided the funding in the budget for 2021 for that post. Now, you're right, in relation to the festival and event strategy, it did come out of the tourism strategy. And while we had, I suppose, very ambitious proposals to develop the festival and event offering in Sligo, what has happened, while that festival and event strategy, it was due to be finalised and launched during 2020. But with the onset of COVID, it did, of course, impact on that. And the finalising the strategy was delayed to allow the position, particularly in relation to the holding of festivals and events and the live performance sector, to become clearer in light of the impact of COVID-19. So we know that COVID-19 has certainly impacted on the whole tourism sector, and all live performances so important to our many festival programmes had to be either abandoned, curtailed, put back, or whatever else. And in a way, the position for 2021 doesn't look too different to what we experienced in 2020. However, we do remain optimistic. And we're keeping in touch with Fáilte Ireland, and we know that they're involved in supporting, I suppose, this sector as part of their overall tourism strategy. But we're also aware that they have completely suspended their festival, the national festival and event strategy, I suppose, until they can better plan for after the current pandemic, for when it's over. So it's prudent for us to do the same, because we don't want to have a festival and event strategy that's not relevant or that's not in date, for Sligo. So it would be particularly important that we reflect the what national policy is and what Fáilte Ireland policy is in this regard. So that's the reason it was delayed. And but I can reassure you that as soon as we get some indication that, okay, the COVID-19 is behind us and the tourism sector, the festival and events, the live performance sector can move ahead and, I suppose, plan for the future, we certainly will be moving to finalise the strategy. And then we can be sure that, look, at our strategy will be relevant for the time period going forward, and that it'll be in keeping with national policy. What we were concerned about at the beginning of the year was that, and you're right, you said it there yourself, that we were looking to grow our tourism offering, to expand and to improve and build the capacity of those people, whether they're voluntary committees or professional committees that are involved in it, to build their capacity to be able to, I suppose, increase the offering that we have here in Sligo. So that's not going to happen within the next year or 2 years. So I suppose our strategy would be out of date. If we had gone ahead with it, it would have been out of date before we even started. So anyway, that's as soon as we can, we certainly will be going back to it, and we will be completing and finalising it, and it'll be done in adherence to national policy, Fáilte Ireland policy at the time. But anyway, we are optimistic that that will be sooner rather than later, but it may be towards the end of the year than perhaps maybe sooner than that. But however, on a positive note, we have been involved throughout 2020, and I suppose even now, in developing and supporting online festivals and events. And as a priority for 2021, we're currently working with Sligo Bid in partnership with Fáilte Ireland to develop a virtual St. Patrick's Day Festival. So we are one of 6 locations in the country that have been selected by Fáilte Ireland to be involved in what they're calling the Greening of Ireland. nationally for 2021 for St. Patrick's Day celebrations. While the work to be done will of course be virtual, but obviously it will be promoted widely by Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Ireland. And obviously, as a result of Sligo being involved, we would hope to get significant coverage in that going forward. So work is well underway with Fáilte Ireland and with Sligo Bid on that. And of course, you're aware that we've also, the Fred Finn Clothes branch has been successful in securing the Fla Fest, which is a new kind of event in lieu of the traditional All-Ireland Fla. Sligo has been successful in that. So I suppose there's a positive aspects to it, but I suppose as of now, I suppose the whole festival and events sector are still kind of waiting to see what the immediate future will bring in terms of how we recover from COVID-19 going forward.
Thank the Director for her report. I'll come back in at the end, but Councillor Cassidy seconded, then Councillor Healy.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thanks for your report, Dorothy, and an events manager, a festival events manager will be a huge addition to the team. And I suppose, as you said as well, it's important that we hit the ground running when the country does open up, that we're ready. Again, it's fortuitous, I suppose, in a way that we'd have a bit of time now to get ready. And also congratulations to yourselves and BID as well. That's absolutely fantastic that Sligo will be part of the Greening of Ireland, because that takes a lot of effort as well, and you just don't make an application or pick up the phone. There's a lot of groundwork that has to go into that. And that's a real feather in the cap particularly for this year, because of the amount of work, I suppose, that BID, in fairness to them, have done over the years in making the parade exceptionally successful and bringing in so many community groups and businesses and revitalising the town at that time of year. That's really, really welcome, and I'd certainly be looking forward to hearing more about the plans and for the weekend as well, because I think we'll all be sitting at home with our shamrocks and our flags waving in front of the screens. So at least that's something to look forward to, and it'll give everybody a lift. So well done to all. That's really good news. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Healy.
Dorothy, thanks very much for the report. The events manager is an important part, I suppose, when you see all the different groups we've around the county and the importance of our tobacco curry shows and our agricultural shows and everything else. I'm just wondering, I take it this is going to be a full-time position, and as well as that, what exactly is the criteria we're looking for from this events manager when we apply, look for them to take them on? And also, will this be coming out of a budget, and will be? I just want to get the ins and outs of that. What sort of salary are we be looking to pay for likes of events manager? I'm not too sure what category they come into in that. And I suppose more like everything else, if we're applying somebody to come in to do a job, I suppose we have our goals which we want to set. Have we an idea of where we're going to be on year 1, 2, 3 or 4, or what is the whole process that we're going to be going through? Just kind of get an idea of it. And the most important thing is you can have all the managers in the world. The most important thing is that it gets out there into the general public, out into the communities that are the ones that are really lead out on these events, and really, because 90% of these jobs are all volunteers, as we know, and the tobacco curries and all the other events around the area. So we'd like to get an insight exactly what the events manager will be doing, what's his time frame. Over the next course of the months, what's our goals? Where do we want to be at the end of it? Where do we want to see ourselves setting on it? So if we go, I don't expect you to answer them all, but if we could get some sort of an idea, it's important, as us as local representatives, that if we're employing people to come in, that we know exactly what they're going to be doing and what we expect to get out of it at the end of the day to represent the county. Thank you.
And it could be a her either, not just a him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let the Director of Services in.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thanks for that. Yeah, you can appreciate that, I suppose this area, festivals and events programming, is a very specialised area, and it's not a skill set that we have in-house. So we would certainly be looking for, and that's why it's taken us a bit longer to actually draw up the qualifications or the job spec, because we just want to make sure that the skill set that we are looking for is reflective of, I suppose, the strategy, which we don't have finalised, but that it will bring that skill set to Sligo in terms of their knowledge of the actual event management area, their contacts with that industry, and I suppose their ability to be able to network and provide that capacity building for whether it's voluntary organising committees and so forth. And that I suppose that they will be used to strategising and working with the likes of a number of different stakeholders to make sure that they're building the festival offering. So there's a lot of skill sets there that we don't have, and it's something that we would like to ensure that we can kind of bring in to make sure that we can grow the festival offering. I know in discussions when we were working on the draft strategy, and it's unfortunate, I suppose, that we were not in a position to finalise the strategy, but it was that kind of particular area. It's a person, male or female or whatever, that they would have that skill set and that knowledge of that sector and that industry and the relevant contacts to be able to kind of bring that to Sligo to help us build the festival and events offering. So I suppose when we get that person in-house, one of the first tasks that they will be assigned will be how, there'll be a number of different tasks, but one of the first will, I suppose, be looking at the cultural plaza that we will hopefully, when we're able to get back on site, be able to build a festival offering around that, perhaps towards the end of 2021 when that is finalised. That'll be one of the key tasks. But the other will be, I suppose, familiarising themselves with all of the different festival offerings that are on offer in Sligo. And that's, I suppose, from the ones that have the potential to grow, you know, the bigger festivals that we're all very familiar with, the likes of Sligo Live, the Turbo Fair Day, and there's quite a number of them, along with, I suppose, the community festival offering. So I suppose there'll be a whole lot of different, how would I put it, phasing of supports for, you know, those people, those voluntary committees involved in organising festivals going forward. And I suppose, as well as this, what the objective of having this and having a strategy and then taking on a person is that we can grow the festival offering in Sligo. So to be kind of all in link, the person who will fulfil that role will be, I suppose, working with that as a backdrop. And I suppose part of their brief as well will be to finalise the strategy as soon as we possibly can going forward. And I suppose look at a person as well that can certainly network and you know, be comfortable dealing with the industry on a professional level, but also maybe on a community level as well, with the various community groups that are involved in festivals and organising festivals going forward. So we haven't finalised it yet, and I suppose we just want to make sure that, and we are checking with other places that would have similar type of positions, but a lot of them would be kind of bigger cities and would have perhaps had a festival and an event unit for many, many years. But I suppose from our perspective, from a Sligo perspective, we want to make sure that, look, we have a unique skill set for Sligo that will be able to fulfil, I suppose, the obligations of the strategy, as well as bring, I suppose, that expertise to bear within the organisation and to help us to be able to work with this sector going forward. So I don't know if that answers the questions, but it's kind of that in a nutshell, I suppose, so to speak. It's to kind of bring that skill set into Sligo County Council that we don't have up to now. So knowledge of the industry and that sector, as well as an ability, I suppose, to be able to strategise and work with professional stakeholders as well as community groups and voluntary committees as well.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure if the director wants to give out the salary. I presume the department will decide that.
Yeah, well, I suppose in a way it'll be reflective of the level of responsibility, and yeah, we haven't finalised on the salary, but it'll probably be in mid-management, in around mid-management level, and the funding will have to be provided. While we have funding for 2021, obviously it will be something that we will be looking to provide in the budget for the next number of years going forward as well, in our annual budget going forward. So when we have the matter fully clarified, we certainly can brief members on it. When we have the job spec ready and we're ready to advertise it, we certainly can brief the members on it.
Yeah, thanks, Director.
So through the chair, so it will become, we will have to provide a budget for this. The first year, is it the ministers providing the money? After that, then it's up to ourselves to provide the money. And also, if he's an events manager, does it mean will a manager be looking for other staff to work with him, or have we to provide other staff, or how does that work?
Okay, well, look, you have to start off. No, the funding is provided by Sligo County Council. That was put into our budget last November for 2021. I don't know if you can recall it, but it certainly was part of what was submitted for budget 2021, and it was approved. So it is Sligo County Council. Now, we did look and we did explore external funding opportunities, but there weren't any, I suppose, appropriate funding opportunities around. If it was a thing that there was funding available from other sources, we certainly would be looking for it. But as of now, that funding will be made is being made available by Sligo County Council. So we would anticipate that, okay, initially the post will be a one-person post. They will be, wherever assistance they need will be provided with an economic development area. And that could be admin backup or whatever else. We will just have to manage that. If this grows over the next number of years, well then obviously, and it requires that support staff is required, well then we will have to consider that at that stage. But as of now, it's we're looking for just one person, and there's no provision for any other support or anything like that in the budget in 2021. We were lucky to be in a position to get funding for that post going forward. So, you know, I suppose, there's a lot of demands on the existing staff's time, but we just have to manage it as best we can going forward by way of support and whatever else. But everything, you know, if it goes well and we get funding for festivals and we're able to complete the strategy and build on the festival offering, well then obviously it may take additional staff resources you know, to support that. However, I don't envisage that in the first year or two or whatever else. So we have to start off somewhere, and I think this is a good start.
Yeah, I want to thank the Director for her report. I'll be very brief. I think it's welcome that the post will be filled at the end of quarter two, and we should aim for that because it has been included in this year's budget, and it's something that we looked for a pre-budget time to ensure that this post was included, and it was recommended as far back as I think 2018 in the County Sligo tourism strategy. So I suppose in terms of the post, it is important that we push the department on it, that we have sanction on it as soon as possible. I was on a meeting last Thursday with Minister Catherine Martin's officials and a festival here in Sligo, the Wild Roots Festival. And I suppose while it is a time with great uncertainty for the live events and the event sector, it is important that events stay planned and stay on some sort of a schedule for 2021. And I understand there is a budget of about 45 million for live events included in the annual estimates or the annual budget. And there's going to be a scheme opened up in the next few weeks or months for the live event sector, for musicians, for technicians, for security firms, for all that, anyone involved in live events, larger bands, medium-sized bands, smaller bands. And it's important in Sligo that we do make application. There's going to be a capital element of it as well for outdoor events. and for streaming events for videographers, for photographers. So that's part of the stimulus package that was announced, the 50 million. There was a €5 million scheme piloted last year. There's a number of the private sector made application in 2020 that were successful, and so hopefully the scheme will be adapted. We made a number of recommendations to it last Thursday in how it should be changed to benefit particular events in this county. And it's important that we have festivals of size. And if we look at Wild Roots, where there's a festival planned of about 6,000 to 8,000, and whenever it gets to go ahead, whenever the COVID regulations ahead, that events like that are fully supported, which will bring people in from many other counties. And it being ran privately, we've had very little investment in terms of that is I suppose this is an event that's going to cost about 500,000, that's it being invested in privately. So it's important that we support those events, both the private sector, the community and voluntary sector. And this post, and I spoke about it earlier on in 2020, but the aim of this, I hope, would be a one-stop shop for someone, a community committee or a community and voluntary committee, a private individual or a business or a group from the private sector that want to come together for a festival of scale or a small village festival that would have a one-stop shop to go to for support in terms of digital media or media strategy or marketing or communications or access to funding. And hopefully the person that fills this role will support all the categories across the county, and it'll be very, very welcome. So I welcome that. The county, we had a presentation at this month's council meeting, the January meeting, in relation to Flatfest. I think it's very, very welcome, and that we will host a virtual St. Patrick's Day. It's also very, very welcome going forward. So I'd like to finish on that. We have one final motion.
Sorry, can I just mention, sorry, just 1 second. I'll be very, very brief, but just in relation to the salary, like a festival and events manager, they'll bring in their salary 20-fold, 30-fold, because they'll be bringing in their sole job, I suppose, is to promote festivals and events, but also to promote Sligo to local, national and international audience as well. So like whatever salary that they are paid, like he or she will make their money back, and I've no doubt that they'll be very worthwhile, and it will be money very well spent. And I think that a festival and events manager, I suppose, it's not just for small events or concerts. I think that person will be a key person to tie up practically everything that's going on in the county that does fall, that community groups and volunteers are doing at the minute. And there is a need for a key person just to tie everything. There's so much good work going on, and there are so many fantastic festivals taking place that are bringing in people internationally as well, that I think that's the key person that's missing at the minute, and that person will just tie up they will make life easier for an awful lot of the volunteers as well, and the groups, and in turn those local festivals will be a lot better as a result of that. So I have no doubt that they will be well worth the salary that they're paid, because they'll bring in money and more into the county. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Bertley Gavin for the work that he did in bringing the festivals that he brought here to Sligo, and that just goes to show you that the in-house professionals, people that we had, that brought about bringing the Falkeol to Sligo on 2 separate occasions, just shows you the people that we have here with us in Sligo County Council. And as I says, I just like to note that one as well. And as I says, I don't mind what salary is. I just asked a question about what salary they're paying. At the end of the day, we'll have to pass it in a budget. Thank you. Bye.
Sure.
Thank you.
That means that other people budgets will have to be passed as well, if that's the case.
Thank you. Item number 12. It's my own motion. I think Councillor Healy is seconding that. So it is what it says. I met with 1 or 2 residents out there a number of months back. It's a very uneven surface. That's part of it. Disjointed. It's holding water. There has been no work done on it for many years now, and I suppose we're now operating 44 trains weekly. 44 trains now stopping at Colooney railway station, and it's vital that there's a provision of pedestrian access that's safe to the station from Colooney. And Councillor Healy had a motion down earlier in relation to the Colooney, or Councillor Healy rather, in relation to the Colooney Ballysadare footpath. So it's vital that this is connected up and that it's safe. It's very uneven, as I say. It's damaged in parts. Part of the curbing is not there. And there's no continuity in a piece joining the town. So I look forward to a positive report, I hope.
Cathaoirleach, Sligo County Council recently applied for funding for this area under Circular RW 13/2020, which is the former National Road Rehabilitation Grant. The application included for pavement upgrades and new footpath construction and widening along the R290 from the Oranmore River Bridge as far as the junction with local road L36070 Kulani Road. Sligo County Council is also considering an application to the National Transport Authority to upgrade the existing footpaths and the construction of a new section of footpath along the same county road as far as the entrance to the railway station under their active travel funding scheme, subject to meeting the requirements of this scheme.
Yeah, Councillor Healy.
First of all, I welcome that. I raised this issue in relation to this on a number of occasions over the last 7 or 8 years. One of the issues that's a major concern is, as you know yourself, there is a bridge there. The footpath that's underneath the bridge, we're limited what we can do with that. Because, as you know, if you're coming in that road, if you have a car coming, they're not slowing down. The first thing they do is head up on the footpath. So that's a concern. I'm just wondering, should we be thinking outside the box here? As you know, right beside that, there's a parish hall. The parish hall, if you go up along the parish hall wall, there's an archway there that will bring you back out onto the railway line again. Should we be talking there with the parish priest? See about upgrading the road that he is there, upgrade that road with that we could put in a footpath with it, and maybe open up that archway again. That would take traffic. We wouldn't then have the concerns in relation to down at the bridge, where we're bringing people down that road underneath the bridge. I think if we looked at that issue, now I'd make myself available to talk to the people that's involved in it, and there might be 1 or 2 landlord owners there as well that we might need to. But I think we should be thinking outside the box. That way then we're taking people away from that dangerous access there underneath the bridge, which is a danger. As well as that, there's ongoing issues there with water flowing down the railway track road. That what happens is it flows down the road and bellies up there then underneath the bridge as well. Now I've raised that a couple of times with them, because across the road from that there is a small stream where we could put maybe in 1 or 2 drainage there that might take the water. But I think if we are going getting funding, that I would like to suggest that we might look at 1 or 2 other options, that we spend the money wisely, and maybe we might be able to work with the local people there in the area as well. And I know anyone goes to bingo there, the road going into the bingo hall is atrocious, but if we're able to work with them, maybe put a footpath in, because we'll get double the work then, because we have a lot of people that walk down there to use the bingo hall as well. So I mean, we might be able to get 2 uses out of it. We might get the footpath to address people going to the bingo as well as going to the train station. So as it says, if funding's coming available, it's important that we think outside the box and maybe just tick all the boxes. It might work, it might not work, but there's no harm in talking to people anyways and seeing what we can get done for value, and I welcome the motion.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Casserly.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I've also been contacted about this, and it is a very uneven surface, and it is important for people so that they can access the railway station, particularly these days. It's an important piece of infrastructure for the town, so I'd also welcome the report. Thank you.
Yeah, I welcome the reply, and I would urge that this be included as high up in the priority list for active travel as possible. It's gone on many years. We need to find a solution to this, particularly people who are older. And the lady that brought this to my attention, she uses the train, and it's not safe for her to walk from Clooney to the train station currently because of the surface. So thank you. We have item number 13, correspondence. Neil. And 14, any other business? Councillor Gilroy.
Yeah, just I think it'd be remiss of us in the day that's in it not to mention the former County Registrar, Kieran McDermott. I know we don't normally do votes of sympathy at municipal district level. Kieran was the County Registrar for a long time, and the returning officer. I think any of us that had interest in politics as youngsters would have watched him in the mid 80s. He was nearly on the early 80s. He was on television nearly as often as Charlie Bird. But he was, he was a pillar of the community out in Rathcormac when he lived there in Kintore. Even after he moved to Ross's Point, I'd often meet him there in the Vintage Lane coffee shop. He was always a pleasure to talk to, a very knowledgeable and helpful man in many ways. He'll always go down in history. He was formerly the man who proposed on behalf of the Sligo County Board. He was chairman of the County Sligo GA Board that proposed allowing soccer and rugby into Croke Park. And I remember meeting him at half-time in the first soccer match between Ireland and Wales in the bar. He was in the company of Brian McNiff, and Brian was saying to me, "This is an awful boring sport, only one score in the first 45 minutes. What have we done to Croke Park?" And I says, blame him, he's the one that proposed it. But I think he did the right thing, and I think it was rare in life that he didn't do the right thing. So to his family, I'd like to express my own condolences, and I think maybe everybody else might want to be joined in that as well. Thank you.
I'd like to also propose that he was a very nice man, and he did a lot for the county. And my thoughts are with him and his family at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, I'd like to offer my condolences to the McDermott family. He was a true gentleman, and he'll be sorely missed in Sligo. And thank you.
Councillor Castley.
Yeah, I'd also like to be associated with that. He had a long and distinguished association with Drumcliff Ross's Point GA and Sligo GA. He was club chairman from 91 to 94. He was patron of Sligo GA and a former chair of the county board and the central council delegate. And he was also deeply involved with the redevelopment of Markovich Park during the 1990s. And as was mentioned, he opened up Croke Park to other sports, and most notably, I suppose, because athletics is so strong in North Sligo, he was a noted athlete, and he set a Connacht College's record for the 440 yards dash back in 1958, and that record stood for many years afterwards. So I'd like to propose a vote of sympathy to his family, to the family of the late Kieran McDermott. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to support everything that was said. I think Councillor Gilroy, Castley, Healy and Fox have summed it up very well. And I want to pay respects to his family in North Sligo and in Riverstown. I don't think there's too many that didn't know Kieran, and I want to offer my sympathies to all his family at this time.
Under any other business, just in relation to medias going to different areas like Union Wood and places like that, I know the council have come out and stated that people locally should be using them, and they are open to the locals. I raised a concern there regarding Deer Park, and there's the people around Colliery have concerns that they can't get in to use the walk around Deer Park, and what's the situation with it? Or
the situation is, I think, as we said at the very start, we're working in conjunction with the Gardaí in assisting in the restriction of access to amenities, but it's something that we're reviewing on a regular basis. We do have concerns at some of the locations that would be popular, where there's a danger of health and safety concerns in relation to parking and so on. So we're monitoring all the sites, and I know you brought one to our attention today, Councillor Healy, so we're having a look at that and see what's the right thing to do in the circumstances, because there are situations where some of these are being they're being overused, if you like, and there's issues with parking and so on. So we're having a look at that.
It's a difficult one for you to solve, Tom, in all honesty, because if you know yourself, we live out in a rural area. 90% of people that wants to go to walk in Union Wood or any other wood, the first thing to do have to hop into a car to get to where they are. So you don't know if they're local or where they're coming from. But I know, speaking to a lot of people down now in the Colliery area, that there is upset. There's been that they see this as their place and that they can't get into it. And it's the same in Union Wood, it's the same everywhere else. And I know it's a difficult one to solve, but I suppose with COVID, it's most important now for people to get out and get whatever walk they can, because 90% of the roads that we're on, there's no footpaths on them. So the only place we can go to is to our woods and places like that.
In fairness to Caherlock raised another one with us as well this afternoon, you know, so look, we are having a look at those, and whatever is the best thing to do, we'll try and do that anyway.
Can I just add to your troubles and your woes on that one as well? The lights in the regionals in Cleaver Park, St. John's, I believe, GA Club, or and especially a lot of ladies are using it at night, and they're concerned about their safety with the lights off. I don't know if that's part of that, or is it for other reasons? Is there a fault or something that the lights were off?
That matter was raised at the Sligo Municipal District meeting this morning. We believe we're assuming it's a fault. In fairness to Electric Skyline, we find they're always excellent at dealing with these, but I know Emer took note of it this morning, and we're going to follow up. I think it was raised in respect of Mitchell Curley Park and Cleaver here, so we've taken that on.
I think in a lot of these cases, to be fair to Electric Skyline, if they're told, and if we don't tell ye, if people tell us and we don't tell ye, so it's all down to getting the line of communication.
It's been a problem because Ratley Harbour down there was no lights in that for a number of nights. But I've been talking to Skyline, they have the lights put back on there. But there must be something now around because they're all set in the counties.
Councillor Castley.
Yeah, sorry, just to go back to Cleaver, that was reported, and Thomas Cairns actually has been in contact with, the engineer has been in contact with Electric Skyline as well. So I think they're going to be fixed. They were repaired. Some of them were out last year or a few months ago, and they were repaired. So I think that they're going to be repaired quite quickly again. It has been reported anyway. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to raise one item actually, and just I suppose as what happened at the start of the meeting, just from the procedures meeting last week, it was agreed that the municipals will go hybrid, so people can go online. That came out of the procedures meeting last week. So what I'm going to raise at the next procedures meeting, and I suppose the standing orders need to be changed, because I suppose this is a very small area of 5, and we need 3 to be present in the chamber. So I'm going to raise that at procedures in terms of the other municipals. I know the Sligo-Drumcliff chaired, or the Sligo-Strandhill meeting was chaired virtually earlier today. So it's something that I'm going to raise at procedures. Councillor, you're right.
Yeah, can you also, and I know it's a bugbear of your own, can you also bring up again, I think it's time we had our meeting in the morning. Our turn has come. It really, it mucks up your whole day if your meeting is in the middle of the day. They've had it for the last 6 or 7 meetings. It has always been the Sligo-Strandhill area. So we'll have to go a separate day, which is not convenient for the management and staff.
Can we take it that that's unanimous, that we will look for the Sligo-Drumcliff meeting in the morning?
Yeah.
And raise it. Everybody.
Thank you.